Ladies and gentlemen, our program will now begin. Please welcome the CEO of the Churchill Club, Karen Tucker.
Thank you very much. Thank you and hello. Thank you. Welcome to this meeting of the Churchill Club. We're glad you're here. Our program tonight is called Business Transformation Insights and Strategies. We are very privileged to have with us Bob Carrigan, CEO of Dun Bradstreet, and Geoffrey Moore, legendary author, speaker, and advisor. Welcome to our speakers. Thank you very much for being here. For our new guests in the audience, a brief introduction to Churchill Club, a nonprofit devoted to innovation, economic growth, and societal benefit, began in Silicon Valley in 1985 as a forum where important people say important things, really meaning say something that matters, say something new, don't just repeat what you hear out there, try to build on insights, and we've maintained that tradition and tried to build on it since then. We convene up to 40 programs every year in an attempt to advance collective thinking and insights around topics like leadership, and certainly if there are trends with lots of potential for innovation, we want to be able to identify those things early. And that's really what we do here. We certainly welcome you to support us and to join us as a member or donor and participate and remain close to the extraordinary conversations that we convene here on a regular basis. In addition to tonight, we have an incredible lineup of programs this month. Next week on June 12, it's an all-star cast to talk retail and promising opportunities in that space. On June 17, it's all about drones, and we're going to start on the consumer end of that and then look at the implications for the commercial end. And we will definitely have some of the most creative and successful people working in that space. And then finally, on June 23rd, we look at the road ahead for automotive transportation. Also, of course, focusing on strategies and opportunities. So hope you'll join us. And remember that most of our programs are posted for viewing on our YouTube channel. So you can go there, and we've had some amazing conversations on the stage recently. Reid Hoffman with Joey Ito, and the 16th annual Top 10 Tech Trends, which somebody told me tonight was the best event that he has attended ever. So please be sure to check it out. If you're tweeting, please use the hashtag Churchill Club, and you will find other Twitter codes in your printed program. And then finally, we are extremely grateful to our underwriter, Dun Bradstreet, especially Barbara Robinson, for making this program possible tonight. Thank you so much. One of the most respected business advisors and authors in the world, Geoffrey Moore's life work has focused on the market dynamics surrounding disruptive innovations. His first book, Crossing the Chasm, remains the Bible for bringing cutting-edge products to progressively larger markets. His most recent work, Escape Velocity, addresses the challenge that large enterprises face when they seek to add a new line of business to their established portfolio, and this has been the basis of much of his recent consulting. Bob Carrigan became CEO of Dun Bradstreet 8 months ago, in October 2013, and there he is leading a transformation to modernize the company's legacy brand to a modern, customer-focused organization. It's an exciting new chapter in the history of this 173-year-old company that previously employed 4 U.S. presidents. And this is Lincoln, Grant, McKinley, and Cleveland. And this is not the first time that Bob has led the transformation of a major global company. As CEO of IDG, he and his team transformed that company from a print publisher to a leading digital media company and the worldwide leader in the technology event and media space. So the experience of hearing and interacting with our distinguished speakers tonight is sure to leave a lasting impression on all of us. Please give your warmest Churchill Club welcome to Bob Carrigan and Geoffrey Moore.
first of all, no pressure on the hiring front.
Yes, absolutely.
I think George Bush is just painting things now, so maybe he'd be available to do that. Okay. Well, so before we get into transformation, which we're going to do very much, just a little bit of background. I've known Bob for a long time at IDG, but I don't think everybody in the audience has had a chance to meet him. So where'd you start life? I mean, you're an East Coast guy, I believe.
All the way back?
Yeah, all the way back.
First of all, thanks everybody for coming. It's great to see everybody here. Let's see, I'm from West Philadelphia. Has anybody seen The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? No, Will Smith. Will Smith went to high school 10 blocks from my high school. I was at West Catholic Boys, he was at Overbrook High. I grew up in a row home in a working class neighborhood of Philadelphia. Born and bred there, and diehard Philly sports fan. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so did all the things you do as a West Philly boy, played stickball and street hockey, and worked in a bakery, paper route, all those things, and made my way to college, and grew passionate about magazines in particular. And maybe it was just sort of growing up in West Philly and the wanderlust of looking through magazines, and I couldn't get my hands on enough magazines. And I also fell in love with technology, and I wrote a business plan while I was in college for a magazine to help parents figure out the best computer for their kids to buy. And this was in the days of the IBM PC clones, mid to late 80s. And a friend of a friend said, well, you got to meet these guys from IDG, which is the world's leading tech publishing company. And so I connected with a very senior guy there who's still one of my dearest friends. And he hated the idea, but he hired me. And then I eventually became CEO, like many years later, which is like the cut to the chase. I went from intern to running the joint.
Pretty much what everybody else would do.
I spent 20 years at IDG.
Wow.
In 2 10-year stints. I spent 4 years in between at AOL, only because an IDG division was actually sold to AOL, and came back to IDG. And so it was a great, and I'm still on the board of IDG, and I just left there at the end of last September and came here to DMB.
Joined in DMB, wow, tremendous. Well, tonight we're going to talk about business transformation. And to tee it up, I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, why would you transform? Consultants love a word like transformation because it sounds like a 7 to 8 figure billing project. but a CEO should be terrified by the word transformation because organizations do not want to transform. So it seems to me that the two clear motives would either be we need to transform to catch a wave because this is the next big thing, and if we don't transform, we're going to miss it. Or we need to transform because we're undergoing an existential threat, meaning somebody's about to take our business away from us. And so the first question I'd want to ask Bob is, so as you look, let's look at each side of that. So you're in the information business. What are some of the waves that you're looking at? What if you said, well, in the next 10 years, even if there weren't a DNB, you'd want to invent one because these are the kinds of opportunities that this world is creating that needs a response?
Right. So using an IDC construct, IDC is one of the companies under the IDG umbrella, this third platform of innovation and technology in the IT space.
What was the third? What were the first two?
Well, the third, right. Mainframe.
Yep.
And then client server, LAN, internet.
Okay.
Here we go. Now we're in the third wave.
Okay,
right?
gotcha. Okay.
So, and this is mobile, social, cloud, big data analytics.
Yep.
So you see this kind of secular shift that's happening, this massive change in the marketplace. And you think about also the struggle that companies are having with this massive amount of data, especially as more applications move to the cloud and everything is more digital and internet-based. IDC says that the amount of commercial data and information it's going to actually double this year. It's like something like 6 billion terabytes, some outrageous number. And so companies are struggling with this. And so the opportunity for a company like DMB, fantastic brand, long history of customers with the largest commercial database in the world, to come in and help solve new problems for these customers in a time when the market is shifting in this direction, seemed like a great opportunity.
Okay, and we're going to come back to the challenges of that. And every iconic company, and DMB is clearly an iconic company, is always poised to be invited to that dance. I've been in this business since 1978. 45 iconic tech companies that I've worked with and known executives at do not exist. So the track record of us catching these waves is nowhere what one would hope. And part of what we're going to talk about tonight is why is that and what would you do differently? because as Albert Einstein taught us many years ago, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we'd like to be able to maybe change the program. And Clay Christensen told us about this 20 years ago, but we haven't successfully changed the program yet. So we'll get there. I want to go back to the other possible thing. So existential threat. As you look at the category that DMB's in, do you see existential threats that would say if we don't change, not only would we miss the wave, we would be essentially overwhelmed by a wave?
For sure. I mean, look, having a more competitive outside-in view is very much something that I'm talking about with our folks these days. We have, again, a strong customer base, and we've been dominant in our space. But you worry in an age like this about commoditization on the low end, and certainly there are emerging players that are pure play digital players that are coming at their own way of aggregating data. And we have to be very aware of these things and make sure that we're not just resting on the foundational stuff that got us here, and that we're using that as a way to co-opt new sources of data. So let's not let the social guys have all the fun. Let's make sure that we're doing the right arrangements and partnerships and acquisitions to be able to bring in newer, modern sources of data, attach it to the foundational stuff that we have and the Dun's number system, which is our way of archiving. It's our ID around in our customer database. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to co-opt these trends and be aggressive about it and be assertive. And that certainly is the new DMB.
So I think what we're going to, so I want to move toward this. What I just heard Bob say is important. He has a crown jewel called the Dun's number. And the Dun's number is kind of like the Social Security number for businesses around the world. That's a unique asset. So you wouldn't ever want to abandon that. But just historically, you had a period, you're just coming out of a period, hopefully, where you've been very flat. So clearly we circled the wagons and did not do that. So talk a little bit about the history, say, from 2000 to 2007 and 2007 to 2014, and the hand that you were dealt as you sort of arrived as CEO in this last year.
Yeah, so look, the strategy we have in place now is all about getting organic growth going, right? And as you say, we haven't grown in the last 5 years. The business, 60% of our business is still in kind of the risk space, which is kind of what got us to the dance. And we probably haven't moved fast enough to solve new customer problems in this wonderful new third platform age. And there are lots of things we could be doing to help customers identify their best prospects, new customer segments to engage with, give them help with their global compliance needs, supply chain management. There's lots of new use cases, but we need to execute on that in a much more aggressive way. And so, that is the central challenge for us. We talk about the crown jewels. So the Dun's number is one thing. So that's our, that is kind of, as you say, the Social Security for business. But the core business we're in, we're experts in identity resolution. And we've amassed the world's largest commercial database. I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch, but we have over 230 million records in our database, substantial competitive moat. So for us, the challenge is, again, unlocking that, liberating that data from some of the traditional ways that we have, made that available to customers, leverage modern capabilities, cloud, DaaS, API delivery, et cetera, get it into customer environments, into alliance relationships in a way that makes it more actionable. And, the Dun's number is about transparency, but also leveraging the foresight and the analytics and the anticipatory analytics that we're building to help customers gain new insight. That's really where we got to go. Okay.
So one of the challenges, as I listen to this, is that 60% of your legacy business, I would assume, is exceptionally profitable.
Sure.
The 40% that's the growth, you have to invest to grow. So whether there's a J curve or whatever curve there is. So one of the classic innovator dilemma issues in a publicly held company, welcome to publicly held companies,
yes.
By the way, is this issue of how do you negotiate with your investor base saying, I'm going to take resources out of my most profitable company. Think about Kodak. Kodak had the same problem, right? Take resources out of my most profitable product line and put them into something which is speculative. How do you present that to the investment community?
What we actually did was, we developed a strategy. And by the way, I spent most of my first few months on the job, and I continue to spend my time with customers. It was pretty obvious what we had to do. And we actually said, look, we need to make an investment this year. Our company was, and always has been, very well managed, financially managed. And we announced a 5 to 9% operating income decline, which was, not the kind of message you necessarily want to give, but as a, in a first-year CEO situation, I have that window to do that. So we're actually, investing, this year to help us innovate and move more quickly into
So
that
let
direction.
me be clear about that. You had 5 to 9% where you said, look, this is not a decline in my business. I am diverting these returns to investment. And so the investment community, I presume some people sold, but some people may have bought on that note.
And the 70 to 80 million was actually incremental. There were other things we did within our business as usual. We had an exercise where we had poker chips against all the areas where we're spending our money. And we had a strategy team work on this. It was a gigantic table of poker chips, and it was just a very visual way to kind of look at where we're spending money. And then we had to move chips around and make decisions about where we're going to spend and no longer spend.
Were you trying to get bigger stacks on fewer squares?
Well, we were trying to get them against squares that would represent great growth for us.
Yeah.
But you really become aware of the hard choices you have to make. And then we said, look, what can we, where there are gaps, what do we have to fund? And we came up with this number that we're spending very judiciously against, improving our overall data and analytics, but also modern delivery and modernizing our brand and other.
Well, I've got a list of the 5 things that you're spending against, and so let me kind of push it. So again, the challenge here, it seems to me, is look, all that money, there were people in the company that had other plans for it. Right? Yes. I mean, it was in my budget, and he took it away from my budget, right? So maybe I just cut to that thing. How did you find negotiating that situation where the instinct of the company is to say, no, that's, I needed that for my budget?
So, 2 things. I channeled our customers. And I was religious about that, right? And I really felt like I was on the side of the righteous here because I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what our customers wanted. And many of our folks that work with our customers, our sales teams that are here, they know the work, and I've listened to them, and I really listened hard and paid attention to what it's going to take to increase our value in the eyes of our customers. So when you got that on your side, you got a lot going for you. But secondly, we're doing a lot to address, cultural issues as well, right? And this is a very important part of the transformation of DMB. Anytime you've got a company that's got a long history, there are things you do, right, that they're more inside out, right?
Yeah.
That you just, that are sort of the habit. They're in the DNA of the company. And I've been working, pretty hard to kind of establish a more kind of peer-to-peer environment and make us more kind of outside-in focused, and thematically, hopefully all of the employees that are here would say our 3 critical themes are act from the outside in, be modern, and be global in everything that we do. So there's a different tone and a style and a tempo that we're seeing at DMB these days. And in a company like ours, you cannot get, strategy execution cannot happen without the team buying into the strategy, getting excited about it, seeing you're making real investments, seeing the real moves we're making to break down some of the walls. I did away with a bunch of the hierarchies. I moved from a leadership team of 13 down to 6 with global leadership positions. We're literally taking down walls and putting up glass and opening up the place. So we're doing things that are, more modern and flattening the organization. And so all this collectively with a good strategy, customers saying, yeah, investment, all those things together are having a good, collective impact.
Well, so let's get to that. So by the way, in that context, by the way, of taking your leadership from 13 to 6, breaking some glass along the way, I would assume. Do you have a chief HR, do you have a compadre in this? Do you have somebody, kind of a counselor or consigliere to help you with it? How did you, is that a new hire or was that something?
New hire, yeah. So one of the critical leadership positions I filled was a chief people officer. This guy's an expert in cultural transformation, great experience from AOL and Thomson Reuters, among other places. So yeah, he's a great partner in dealing with talent development issues, not just kind of the bureaucratic, administrative issues about HR. I didn't want to call it HR, by the way. It's about people and talent development, getting people plugged in, getting them excited about what we're doing, thinking about talent development programs, thinking differently about compensation, all the issues that need to be addressed, and frankly, had not been addressed for a long time at our company.
And what have you? So what do you think's been the best lesson you've learned from that person in the 8 months or so that you've had the relationship, or however long it's been?
Right. So he is.
He's an expert in cultural transformation. I'm thinking, okay, I'd like to be an expert in customer transformation too. What does he know that we don't know?
Right. Well, it's a long story.
Okay, I bet it is.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. True, Geoffrey. Okay. I can deal with that.
No, look, he reflects kind of, he's a modern kind of guy. He is extremely accessible to the employees. You can engage with him one-on-one. And he is tackling a lot of the so-called sacred cows,
Yeah.
in the company. And every time we have an opportunity to do something and change it, we do, right? And so he and I see eye to eye on these things. And we're trying to, get a different feeling within our company. He's also very much out in the marketplace, out in the offices, seeing people engaged, and he's doing a great job. I couldn't do it without him.
I mean, when you move that much cheese, you definitely upset people. So any backlash? Do you have any sense of kind of the dark side or the downside, or have you had to, so what have you had to do there?
Right, but whenever you do something like this, you're going to have some folks that don't quite go along for it, or maybe they're skeptical. Now, I have to say, one of the great surprises is that there's been just a tremendous amount of, everybody wants to grow, and they want to be part of a winning enterprise. And so we're trying to unlock new channels of energy, like small things. So we had a social media policy that was more about what you couldn't do in the social web than what you could do, and it was quite scary.
It's actually been promulgated by many large firms.
Well, so what we did was we looked at the policies of more progressive companies and completely changed the policy, and now we have DMBers as ambassadors of the company, and they're aggressively out there tweeting and participating in the social web. We use Chatter, the Salesforce tool for internal communication, and our Chatter traffic is just soared. I mean, the amount of dialogue and energy. And I'm encouraging everybody. We have like hashtags around culture fail, and we want people to be open and talk about these things and just put it out there. You see, I don't actually own any of that past stuff. I have the benefit of being a new guy, an outsider still coming in. And while I respect the history and the 4 presidents and the great brand and all the things, I want to figure out what we need to do today to be relevant to our customers. How do I get great energy going among our employees? And it's there. There just needs to be a strategy and an environment that lets it free. And we talk about, I use the word liberate a lot. One of my core things, which I mentioned earlier, liberate the content from historic channels. But liberate is also about liberation in terms of working with partners in new ways, being much more expansive in how we do business and open to new partnerships. It's about getting out of some of the hierarchical, overly formal ways that we were doing business before, being more peer-to-peer. And so this is a key theme that we're trying to get through all areas of the business right now, both internally and externally.
So I'm thinking there's a couple of major themes here, and I'd like to, let me start with the infrastructure, then go back to the people relationships. So, because you're going from a world which presumably was internally focused, relatively siloed, highly profitable, relatively regulated, probably hard to do business with, but there was nobody else to do business with, so what the hell, right? And by the way, that describes a large number of companies in our industry. And you're trying to turn it inside out, right? And I mean, everything you're saying is like, no, I don't want to play it that way, I want to play it the other way. So 2 things come to mind that think, well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but the first one is infrastructure, and the second one is history of relationships. So let's start with the infrastructure. 176-year-old company, you must have relatively mature infrastructure in a world where the world's trying to completely revolutionize the basis of computing. How in the world can you kind of transition from the old to the new, and how fast, realistically, can you do it?
Well, look, first of all, it's figuring out what you should no longer do. And when I first came in, I took some write-offs for some things to discontinue certain projects that I thought were not exactly outside in. It was about developing on our own proprietary platforms. So just in general, we're trying to move from, kind of the more inside-out proprietary ways of developing.
More the Symbian approach than the Android approach.
Exactly, and we're moving from more, the kind of the arthritic to the agile.
Okay.
More cloud-based.
Now let's be
more,
nice to arthritis. Some of us, come on, don't be ageist. Okay, come on.
So,
okay.
So, and look, where we need capabilities, we're acquiring. So we bought a company, Indice, which is a cloud-based BI platform company. And so where we need capabilities to help move aggressively into the cloud, we're trying to acquire those capabilities.
I would still think you'd have to have a lot of technology debt where you had been milking older technology for a long time, and now you're kind of trapped in or at least constrained by an architecture which was never designed for the modern world, and you have huge amounts of assets in it. I mean, how do you think about that?
Right. Well, look, I think about everything through the lens of the customer, right? And so, first of all, our IT department was kind of its separate group reporting to the CEO. I moved it under our operations and aligned it more with our alliances and our data.
It's your factory.
It's our factory,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So everything we're going to do in technology is going to support the strategy, which is all about improving our value to our customers. And like I've had conversations with some customers even today about some of the challenges that we have with our technology. So yes, you're right, we certainly do. So we're dealing with this head on, and we're listening to customers, and we're forming councils, and we're trying to get a lot of feedback and understanding. There's going to be some areas where we're just going to, we're not going to be able to retrofit a modern strategy on, some of the older technology platforms that we have. So we're going to have to go completely in new directions. But it is a challenge, and it's absolutely takes up a good part of my day.
So and part of that's got to be, part of what you're saying, I think, is some portion of a load which in the historical D&B you say, no, we have to all do it ourselves. We can find a way to share that with a partner, or maybe offload it to a partner in a more collaborative model. So a couple questions about that. One is where do you find the DNA inside the company to build partnerships if the history of the company has been more proprietary and closed? And then second of all, what kinds of things can partners be doing for you where you say, look, that's a better job for them to do, takes it off of us, they're better at it anyway going forward?
Right, so the last point's critical, right? So a lot of our technology investment now, and what we're doing, is focused on how do we deliver our content, right, in a way that is embedded in their technical environment, right? So it's not about us building, the software.
The Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal. It's about us having wide enough pipes, having APIs to make it easy.
So you're a feed.
Well,
I mean, a very high quality feed.
Right.
It's not fodder.
Right.
but aren't you? I mean, I seriously, aren't you a feed to your customers?
In many ways, yeah. That's at the base level what we do. So we feed our data in to help them make sense of their own data, and they'll use our data to evaluate, risk and opportunity within their environment. But increasingly, so that's kind of, and that's based on, again, the things we do really well. Identity resolution, matching, the DUNS number, that's about transparency. But increasingly, we're about foresight, and so we've built proprietary behavioral anticipatory analytics that our customers are using and layering on top of our data, their data, other third-party sources to make sense of this stuff. Yeah. And that is also where a lot of our investment is going, right? And so when you talk about technology investment innovation, we're focused on modern delivery and building foresight, right? Which is
not just history.
Not just history, because that's where the puck is going, and that's where our customers want us to take them.
Okay. So the next thing we talked about is historically this had been a predominantly U.S.-centric business. You had an international group. How did you approach that issue?
Well, first of all, I banned the word international, and I'm not kidding you. We are not allowed to say the word international. Now, we have to use it for financial reporting purposes, because we report North America and international, but that's the only time I use that. So about 25% of our revenues are from outside of the U.S. And I inherited a structure where we had a president of North America and a president of international, and it was sort of like two companies within a company. And you could see how over time, it was sort of managed that way. There are disparities in, everything from data quality to the availability of certain products and capabilities in markets outside of the U.S. Our customers are saying, hold on, we have, global growth aspirations. We want to reach faraway markets. We've got global supply chains. We have global compliance needs. You guys need to be easier to do business with. And so what we're trying to do is harmonize the company into a truly global operational company, which is something, we have a global footprint. Our data footprint is truly global. We draw data from 200 countries. But making it actionable and easy to access, for our strategic customers that really want to do global stuff with us. And increasingly, they want consistency of scores and consistency of view as they look at data. And this is a great opportunity for us to fill that gap.
So right now you said 75 US, 25 the banned word. If you were to report this out 5 years from now, what would you expect the ratio to be if you were successful?
Well, look, I hope, look, we have absolute, big-time growth aspirations in the U.S., but there's a tremendous opportunity outside of the U.S. for growth, and you saw that in our recent results. So I want to absolutely maximize the opportunity that we have outside of the U.S.
And you can compete with the NSA on data availability? I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean to say that. Okay, all right, okay.
No, but I'll tell you, one of the things that I learned many things at IDG. IDG is a truly global company.
Yeah.
And, and it acted globally and, local
so
implementation.
So give me an example. Give an example. So how do you know when a company is global versus, because a lot of us, we all say we're global, but some of us probably are really more national, international, and others of us probably are genuinely global. How do you know the difference?
Well, I think customers feel it, right? If they feel that there's an internal negotiating process and that they're dealing with multiple companies within a company, a federation of companies, and it becomes their problem. That's the thing. When it becomes their problem, then it's my problem, right? Yeah. And so our goal is to be completely easy to do business with and remove the barriers to getting more business done. And also when customers want to do business with us in markets outside of the US, when the quality is not as consistent or the products they know and love are not available or certain capabilities are not available, they can feel that it was a company that was primarily a North America company with kind of an international transactional kind of holding company approach,
yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's a huge missed opportunity, and it's one of the reasons why we haven't grown.
Right.
Right? And so to unlock growth, we talk about investment in our core business, our content, global data insight and analytics, modern delivery, but globalizing the business is a huge opportunity for D&B.
Yeah.
And we've only scratched the surface on that.
I remember once we were talking with a friend from Cisco here. Pete Solvik, who used to be the CIO at Cisco, had the same problem. They were national, international. He just made a claim as a CIO, I will never release an application in the United States first again. So whatever, he always released it first in another country. It's another attempt to do this. Mm-hmm. But we have to get out of I love John Cleese's comment about the United States. He said, if the United Kingdom held an event called the World Series, we'd invite other countries. It's a little bit of the problem that we're dealing with here. So let's go to this issue of modernizing the brand. So D&B has got, the danger with D&B is it's going to end up being like Heinz ketchup, or it's going to be like some iconic brand that is like, okay, but please. So how in the world you say modernize the brand? It's an easy thing to say. First of all, what do you mean by that? And second of all, how would you go about modernizing?
Okay, so we actually hired our first ever CMO, and it's one of my 6 direct reports.
Time out. So for 176 years,
first
ever.
Marketing
professionals, be alert. 176 years, they did pretty good without us.
Marketing reported into our innovation guy. We had some marketing, but we actually have a first ever CMO, a global CMO. And so the goal, modernizing our brand, is about defining what we stand for today and what we're going to stand for, right? And so, today most people know us as Decide with Confidence, which is homage to our, business credit business, which is great, and that's still going to be a core business for us. But, D&B has a much broader mission around, leveraging our commercial insights to solve larger business problems and challenges and opportunities around sales and marketing and some of the areas I talked about. So it's about redefining what we stand for, but it's also about every customer touch point. So you should, when you experience us on the web or through mobile devices, you should feel, you should understand what D&B stands for, and it should be a great customer experience. And so modernizing our brand, it really is just a statement that says we don't want to be famous for the 173 years before. We want to be famous for what we stand for today, the value we drive today. We love the history. It's foundational to us. It's great. It's wonderful. It's more of a blessing than a curse. But we've got to define what we stand for today. And we also have to update our look and feel and just get a little more crisp and modern, because today, the medium is the message, right? The look and feel, how you deliver, how you present, how you render on a mobile device. These things are all critically important.
The people at Nokia have learned this, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
They have.
So this is critically important. And so when D&B, and this is like my publishing thing too. When I see D&B presented anywhere, I want it to look modern and crisp, and I want people to understand what we stand for.
So by the way, just to get specific, because not everybody in the business, in the room here might understand the business, let's just talk about the canonical D&B offer in credit risk was sold to whom for what purpose. And then of these modern offers, let's talk about, for example, the data you might be giving to a Salesforce.com user and what that purpose is, just to get a flavor for kind of where the business is coming from and where it's going to.
Right, so with Salesforce and Sugar and other alliance partners, we deliver into their environment. So in the case of CRM, these best-in-class CRM applications, our data goes in to clean and optimize, because look, the data, these are wonderful applications. Clients love them, but having accurate data makes it even better, right? And so 1 + 1 = 3, and so it's a wonderful application. It's a wonderful way of putting D&B inside these best-in-class
Is it like their
applications.
master data? Is you're part of their master data program?
That's another use case for
Okay,
us,
okay.
right?
I'm sorry, then I don't understand. The sales thing, what are they using that data for?
They're using it for prospecting, they're using it for engaging with customers, they're using it for identifying most profitable segments, customers that look like their existing customers, because we've got the largest database of businesses. And so we can create that single view of the customer. And we could fill in the gaps. So when somebody types into their CRM application, they type in a company name and they misspell it, or they got the name wrong, or the address, we can correct that for them. So at a foundation, we can help them with that. And then we can layer in some of our analytics and things that we're doing to help create actionable insight on top of that foundational data. And that increasingly is
what your value add is.
And that's where the value add is. And so, and the risk business is critically important, but and by the way, that data that we accumulated, we understand businesses very well. We understand, we have these incredible matching capabilities, identity resolution, we catalog them around the DUNS number. All of that can be leveraged around new use cases in a world that is increasingly data-driven, that's chaotic, right? So the DUNS number can be used to catalog all this different unstructured data that's coming in, append it to a single source of the truth, and give true insight, married with our foundational data, right, to our customers, right? And that's a huge play for us, right? At a time when our customers are crying out for this.
Yeah, it's an interesting play, because where's the value migrating in the data business? A bunch of the old value was just in being able to aggregate it. Google has shown us that that's a commoditizing, that particular piece is a commoditizing, it sounds like. Well, let me ask you the question the other way. What can Google do better than you, and what do you intend to do better than Google? Because obviously they're in the information business too. Yeah. And so how do you see those two models co-evolving? Because neither of you are going away anytime soon.
Right, so look, we have 30,000 sources of trade data, shipping information, all kinds of signal information. In a database that's updated 5 million times a day, entirely focused on the commercial space, pegged to a giant, the world's largest commercial database. And so the foundational stuff that we have is highly predictive, and companies depend on this. I mean, you could do a Google search on a company to try to determine their creditworthiness or whether they're a good prospect, but our stuff is highly predictive, highly stable, and is getting increasingly more relevant, because now we're co-opting all sorts of unstructured sources and running really fast to make sure that there's lots of modern signal and social data attached to this, right?
That's what you have to do. If you
No,
didn't do that,
that is central to this strategy,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And we acquired the data matching business of FlipTop. We announced that last quarter in addition to this Indice acquisition. So we're moving very fast. And we're building lots of partnerships to try to bring in lots of modern sources so that, because again, this combination of the foundational stuff, which is our crown jewels, with all this other unstructured, chaotic stuff coming in, we can, and then marry it with customer data and their customer records and helping them get that optimized and cleaned, layer all that in, and then bring in all of the analytical tools and the proprietary stuff that we're building. That solves a lot of customer problems.
So by the way, I'm going to ask a couple more questions. We have a couple of microphone runners in the room. I can see one here, and there's maybe one over there. What I want you to do is, if you want to ask Bob a question, or the moderator a question for whatever value that would be, just raise your hand, and then the mic runner will come over. I see one hand up here, but we'll get that going. The last thing I want to just ask, from taking the privilege of being up here. So you're articulating an extremely exciting vision. You've talked about acquisitions. Undoubtedly, there'll be more. One of the big challenges in established enterprises is they can do a couple of things. They can acquire tuck-in acquisitions for technology, or acqui-hires where they'll get a few team members, but unfortunately a lot of times some of the key players vest and leave. So it's back to this issue. One of your 5 things was around the issue of the outside-in, forward-leading culture. So how do you see, how do you see not making these graphs stick and not getting organ rejection? And have you seen that elsewhere? I worry about it. I wonder how you think about it.
Right. So in terms of, well, first of all, we're careful about M&A, and as we've messaged to our investors, we're going to use our cash to first invest in the business, the organic business, right? And second, we're going to do M&A where it supports the strategy. So if you look at the 2 things we've done, we bought this matching capability, social data matching capability from FlipTop, but we bought this.
What was that for? What did you get from that? So
we bought a capability, a technology to be able
to
bring social and be able to, get people's social behavior and attach that to company records.
Okay.
Right?
And everything, the strategy at the end of the day is always to attach to the core, right?
We bring it back to the core.
Okay, keep going. Okay,
right.
The second one?
That's the proposition.
That's the game. Yeah,
and that's what we help organize it.
Yeah, right.
And then create insight on top of it, right? So, and then with Indice, it's a company based in Vancouver, Washington. It's interesting. This is my first acquisition in this job. We're building a cloud innovation center. And look, the goal there is to have, that was primarily, look, they've got great technology and IP, but acqui-hire was the big priority there. We wanted a team that were experts in kind of multi-cloud development and could help aggressively move us into that direction. And so, there'll be, it's a delicate balance. I want these guys to be separate. I want them to have, they've got a great culture there. But I want them to feel like they're part of this great enterprise and that they're driving this cloud innovation center for us. But I think the separateness is somewhat important, and we want to make sure that they have the focus and that they're not dragged down by some of the other more traditional lines of business.
Right, and that at some point there's a reckoning in the future, because as more power goes to the cloud, right now it's, well, they're the cloud guys in Vancouver and we're the real company here at corporate. At some point, that balance of power may shift. That, I think, is going to be a moment of truth of some kind.
Over time, we've got to bring that together, right? But it's early days.
Okay.
We got to focus, and right now, the separateness, I think, is.
So I would encourage. There's a lot. It's the people at Sun always used to say, there's more smart people outside the company than inside the company. There are more smart people in this room than are on this dais. So questions from you would be great. And I saw there was going to be a question right over here for number 1. And then please just raise your hand, and there's microphones. There's one down here. Okay, please.
Hi, I'm Savita Raina from SAP. I have 2 questions. We have heard a lot about predictive analytics, and you kept mentioning about anticipatory analytics or data. Could you explain that? And my second question is your perspective, you're in data business, your perspective on data privacy and protection.
Okay, so the 2 topics are predictive analytics and data privacy. We talk a lot about predictive analytics. Maybe give some use cases where, what are we really talking about here? what's possible, and then we'll get to the other one.
So again, this is a big focus of at DMB, and by the way, this actually predated me. I've just put a lot of emphasis on it, and I'm putting a lot of investment behind it. We have a great team that's focused on driving that foresight for companies, and we have a variety of scores that we've built, that we make available that help evaluate the delinquency potential of a company, or the viability of a company, or how much of a risk they are in your supply chain. We've got our own proprietary algorithms that we created that help make sense of this data.
And you've been doing that for a long time,
We've been doing
right?
that for a while. And we also do custom stuff on behalf of customers to help with their bespoke needs.
So, okay, what about the data privacy side? Is that an issue for businesses?
Well, it's a critical issue, and actually a good part of our investment is going into making sure that our data is secure, and certainly data security is critical
okay.
to
So
our brand.
let me do privacy and
then
security.
privacy is
Yeah. So for sure. So have you? Well, I guess they say. I was going to say, have you been hacked? But everybody says now you either know you've been hacked or you don't know you've been hacked.
No, it's a daily challenge.
It's got to be a daily
challenge.
It's got to be a daily challenge.
Right.
But back to the issue of privacy. So obviously in the consumer space, privacy is getting huge attention.
Yeah.
It didn't occur to me that it would be as big an issue in a business.
Well, look, it's still a big issue, and we actually do get data, whether we like it or not. You do get data that's personally identifiable information, and data that, is stuff that, you have to make sure that it's secure, and we have to make sure that we're respecting the privacy of these individuals. But look, we're a B2B company first and foremost, and our records are really about commercial entities, and so, we have a little bit more leeway. Some of our closest competitors in our category have primarily a consumer focus, and so they have a higher burden to bear in that regard. We also do get a lot of information from a lot of trade sources, from a lot of financial institutions and utilities, et cetera, and that data we have to make sure is absolutely secure, and we keep that very private and secure. Data security and privacy is of paramount interest and importance.
I think I saw a hand over here. There's a hand here. Okay, and Mike, the hand over here. Okay, hi. Okay, please, hi. Please.
My questions. I
Oh,
want to know.
whoa. Okay.
Hi.
Okay.
I want to
Okay.
know,
I'm sorry. Yeah. Go. Please go ahead.
How do you become the 6 years of the most ethical companies?
Okay. Were you 6 years the most ethical company?
Yeah, that's what it said.
Yeah, we've won some awards recently around being. Look, it's about how we do business with our customers. It's about our compliance programs, and the practices that we've instituted to make sure that when companies are doing business with us, they know that they're dealing with a trusted entity that's treating them in a fair way, and we're very proud of the distinctions and the awards that we've won.
Are there management practices you think that are unique to D? I mean, being the most ethical company on Wall Street is sort of like being the tallest midget. So this is actually a bigger deal. This is a bigger deal. And you're not on Wall Street, by the way. You're not in Wall Street.
We're not on Wall Street.
That would be clear. But what do you do as to be an ethical company? I mean, obviously you take that very seriously. What kinds of things do you do that maybe other companies could learn from? Or
Well, look, the DMB brand has got to be about trust, right? I mean, trust is a key proposition, and so, we think about how that manifests itself in many ways, and being, part of the trusted brand and being a trusted partner is, we want companies to know that we're, very ethical in all of our business practices, and it really starts from the top.
Yep.
And we've got a company-wide compliance program. Everybody feels this and is a part of this, and we have compliance champions in the company, to make sure that we are doing business in the most professional and honest manner.
does that ever become restrictive, where you feel like, oh my gosh, it's a regulatory affairs issue? I don't know. I can't tweet about this because I haven't checked. I mean, this is an interesting potential tension between being compliant and being open. And
Right.
Has that come up, or?
It has come up in a few ways, but it's less of an issue than I actually thought it would be.
Okay.
And the good far outweighs the bad in making sure that we are ranked as one of the most ethical companies to do business with.
Okay. There's a question over here.
Most of the successful platforms now are self-organizing and self-customizing. How do you bring that to risk management across an industry?
Okay. So let me give an example of that. So self-organizing and self-customizing. So for example, a mapping platform, when TeleAtlas and who are the guys in America that got bought by Nokia? No, Nokia bought Navtech. So Navtech, they had to command and control every update to that thing had to happen by a Navtech employee or a TeleAtlas employee. And when they opened it up and allowed drivers to correct their own addresses or people to do mistakes, that's kind of, I think, when we think about self-organizing, self-correcting data sources. So is that part of the strategy?
It is. We've already held hackathons, So API development is critical to us, and we brought in, we had a day in Washington where we had folks come in and we had a contest and let the kids play, and let them have access to the data. And they created all sorts of use cases that we couldn't have envisioned. So that's part of this idea of liberating the content, is making it accessible to developers that will find new ways of using it that we cannot envision and that we shouldn't be envisioning. We should focus on what we do best, data and delivery, and let very innovative companies come in and think about new ways to use our data, not just in terms of risk, but in all the ways they can use this commercial data. And the use cases are astounding, ways that they're using.
But the quality of the data itself, because one of your issues is data quality. So on LinkedIn, I update my profile. As a business in the Dun Bradstreet database, do I update my record, or do you only update my record?
No, we take, if folks call in and they want their records updated, we will update it. And look, our goal is accuracy,
Okay.
right? But we certainly we have many ways of triangulating these businesses. We have so many sources in a database that's updated 5 million times a day.
Yep.
Okay, so sure, if there are discrepancies or problems, certainly we invite customers to call and help us.
But there's not a Wikipedia approach.
No.
We're not doing it that way.
No.
Okay. And that's because you want to because there's a control element that just has to be maintained?
Yeah, look, we want, the foundational stuff that we're doing is at the core of what we're about. And the trust that we have is based on having these very significant sources. We have so many major financial institutions and major companies contributing and giving us data. That's the special sauce.
Yeah.
That's the special sauce. Yeah. And so that is first and foremost.
Can't just spread that around. Yeah. That makes sense.
But you can't just rest on that, right? Yeah. So we're layering on top of that lots of new sources that are less stable, less structured.
Yep.
Okay? And so, our goal is that we want to organize as much information that can be relevant and predictive as possible, organize it, tie it to, the DUNS number, and make sure that, we're able to provide very modern transparency into these businesses for our customers.
As you describe it, it feels like it's a two-layer, ice cream cone or whatever, where the core of this thing is highly controlled and proprietary, and there's another layer which is highly social and variable, and then this.
But by the way, that's the world today, right?
Yeah.
The world is structured and unstructured, and where the value is, again, is our stuff, our customers' data, third-party sources coming together, making sense of that, layering in our analytics. This is the magic.
Okay.
And the data is exponentially more valuable when when it goes through our identity resolution process and we're able to provide clear foresight and make sense of all this.
But there is a single thread then. To your point, there feels like there's a single thread this is being controlled by. Okay, which is this valley right now is all about running away from that architecture. I think your point would be, well, God bless, and there's a bunch of stuff you can do when you run away from that architecture, but there's a bunch of stuff you can do with it that you can't do.
But in a way, we're doing both, right? So we're letting the data free, and we're finding new alliances and new ways to new homes for our data. We're liberating the content again. We're also, again, making it available to developers in ways that we haven't before, to let them create new use cases around our data.
That's the hackathon. Okay, other questions in the room? Okay, yes, right here.
So we talked a lot about listening to our customers, which I think is really important. It has a significant disadvantage. Listening to phone customers would not result in this device. And to make it funnier, listening to customers would have never result in this device.
Yeah.
Which is a significant innovation that changed the way we eat. Nobody asks for anything they can't imagine happening.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge is that established brands that has an incredible appeal for the best talent on earth, everybody wants to work for you, sir. You can actually pay them what they want, what they're worth, and probably more if you really want to hire them. And yet, established brands with all those resources and capabilities continuously fail to innovate and find themselves driven out or their markets invaded by newcomers that basically come out of the blue.
Okay.
How do you deal with that challenge?
Can I take this one?
Go ahead.
Okay.
This is the expert in that question.
Well, I mean, this is
and I'm going to listen and take notes.
No, but this is actually at the core of a lot of the work I've been doing recently. So if you think about these waves, there's actually 4 parts. We're a surfing community, right? This is Mavericks, right? So if you think about catching a wave, there's 4 parts. You got to be in position to catch the wave, so you have to swim your surfboard out to where the waves are. You have to actually catch the wave, which turns out to be an amazingly athletic act. Mm-hmm. You then have to ride the wave productively for as long as you can. And then you actually have to have the sense of when to get off the wave and go back out. It turns out, in spending time with established enterprises, the 2 places where they do very well, they're very good at riding the wave they're on. In fact, they're world class at riding the wave. And interestingly, and this is a little bit of a contradiction to what you were saying, I believe they're also good at being alert to the next wave and putting themselves in position. So I actually think they may not invent the fork, but I think they would be an early detector of forks, and they would want to think about being in the fork industry. By the way, Motorola had the iPhone technology at least a couple of years before Apple. So I don't think they're bad at doing that. The 2 places where they do badly is actually taking any of these innovations and getting them all the way to scale. And then the other thing they're bad at doing is letting go of any bit of profitable business that's left over. But part of the reason that they have trouble with that is they never get the next big thing to scale. And so when you look at that problem, it turns out it's not an innovation problem, it's a go-to-market problem. That in order to take any new innovation to real scale, you can only do one at a time. The lesson that Steve Jobs taught us at Apple is he did it 3 times in 1 decade, at a time where arguably nobody has done, other than maybe Amazon, and maybe you could add 1 or 2 companies to the mix. Most tech companies in the last 15 years have added nothing new to their portfolio in the last 15 years, even though there's been a gazillion huge categories come across their bows. But to take it to scale, what you have to do, it's a little bit like what Bob was telling the investors. I'm going to take 5 to 9% of my asset, and I'm going to put it over here. Well, 5 to 9% is just barely enough to do one. And the amount of field attention you have to give to it, and you have to take your best players and put them on the new thing. It's hard to sell the new thing. They're not making as much money. Your revenue goes down, not up. Their comp, if you don't rearrange it, goes down, not up. There's a lot of problems with this model. And if you then say, well, it's a high-risk thing, we can't just put our eggs in one basket. We've got to do 2 or 3 or 4 at the same time. There is 0 chance it can work. And we've proven that now enough times for the existence proof to stand. So Jobs did them 1 at a time. He did the music business first. When it was iPod, you heard nothing about the Macintosh. You just saw billboards with shadows with little white things coming out of their ears, right? For 3 years. When the iPod got all the way, and iTunes got all the way to Bright, the iPhone came out, you never heard another word about the iPod. You had to, if you didn't go in an Apple store, you wouldn't even know an iPod existed, right? It was 3 years iPhone, iPhone, iPhone. Then and only then, in his last year, did he introduce the iPad. He had the iPad before the iPhone, because the iPad was just an iTouch that was better looking. So I mean, really, it was. So the point being, this 1 at a time principle and the go-to-market principle, so I'm a little bit on my own jihad here, but those are the things those are the things, I'm done. Thank you for asking him that question so I could answer it. All right, that's enough. Let's get back to the professional. Yeah, right here, there's one. Right here, please. This is great.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, okay. Well, all right, over here. Go ahead, you'll be next. Okay, yeah, please.
I'm Filipino, and in a month's time...
So is my wife.
Okay, that's nice to hear. In a month's time, I'd be sworn in as an American citizen. I'm sorry I missed both the two of you. I was outside talking to my wife in the Philippines,
Okay.
updating her about family and the kids.
Okay.
The question is, I am glad I heard about Bob talking about his company being voted one of the most ethical companies in America. My company is a recent subscriber to DNB.
Okay.
Okay, so what is this all about being an ethical company in America? Please enlighten me, because I'd like to find out what is it really that is there about being an ethical company in America?
Okay, good. Okay, I mean, if you go ahead.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you for recently subscribing to DMB. I appreciate that.
No, he does. It's your job.
Yes, thank you. Look, being an ethical company, again, it's important to our brand, and it's foundational to us, right? We want our partners, our suppliers to know when they're doing business with us that we're treating them in a fair way, and that everything is transparent, and they can trust that we're going to deliver on the services that we say we're going to deliver, and that they can feel like they are investing with a company that is going to care very deeply about the treasure that we're earning from them. And so, again, it's especially important for Dun Bradstreet, given the business that we're in and the trust business. Companies are using our data to make huge portfolio decisions, and we certainly want them to know that we want our brand to scream out that we are all about trust and integrity, and a company that is a great partner company. And that really is, the story behind the story of being an
And I want to generalize this. So look, the whole strategy of the American technology sector is essentially built on trust. I mean, basically, particularly if you think about the Silicon Valley culture, we tend to shake hands on a lot of things to get things done faster. We ask the rest of the world to trust us. We want to co-create with partners. We want to collaborate to build markets in other countries. If we're not trustworthy, this entire strategy fails. So it's not just one or two companies. We all have to be trustworthy. If we're not trustworthy, the entire way we're playing the game won't work. And so when our country does things like in 2008, and it became extremely clear that our financial services providers were not trustworthy, that was a dagger in the heart of the American economy. And we can never allow that to happen again. We just can't. Okay, there was another question, I think, over here. Please, go ahead. Can we hear you now?
Yeah.
It's a Verizon thing.
Right.
Go ahead. All right. Okay.
I'm actually not from T-Mobile. Jill Steiner, I'm from Adobe. And my question for you is, you talked a little bit about these customer experiences, and you talked about the digital touch points. Can you just speak a little bit about what you're doing around the mobile, the cookieless world?
Right.
How are you dealing with that? What are the investments that you're making to deal with that cookieless world?
I'm so glad you asked me that question. So later this
Talk about a cookieless world. What does that mean?
Well,
'Cause I love cookies. Oh, no.
right.
Separate.
Well, so cookieless, is it's usually used in kind of a media context, right? So the cookie that attaches to the user. We're all about identification of entities, and so we can recognize these brands through ways that go beyond cookie experience. We recognize email addresses, we understand their identity, and we have permissions with a lot of these folks. But in terms of mobile, this week we're going to announce a new product, Dmb Mobile Iq, and you'll have, if you're a salesperson.
I think you actually did announce it.
Yeah, I did. I'm preempting it's officially going to be announced on Thursday.
Okay.
But
You're all under NDA.
This is a big, innovation for DMB.
No tweeting.
All of our data is available in a mobile application.
Wow.
And so you'll be able to get, location data. So any prospects that are near you, you'll be able to figure that out. You'll be able to look at the scores that we've developed to determine if they're good prospects, creditworthy, all those things about DMB. We're bringing in social feeds, other company information. You'll be able to make lists and do prospecting. So we're this is just another example of making all this data available, through the mobile phone in a mobile optimized way, bringing tremendous power of a gigantic database and all the
And
analytics.
who's your
that we're
target
developing.
who's your first target end user for use
It's
case?
field force, field sales forces.
Field sales force.
We've had a couple of customers that have been test cases, and they're able to use it. They put it in the hands of their field salespeople, and they're able to, in real time, be able to look at, who are the best prospects that are right in the environment, right in the neighborhood, that look just like their current customers. They can also bring in proprietary or third-party feeds to be able to add additional screening. So lots of innovation in mobile, that we're focused on, and making sure that our data is available, when and where customers need it in a mobile fashion.
We've got about 5 to 10 more minutes, maybe time for 1 or 2 more questions if we see it.
Yeah.
Okay, right back here.
Yeah. I happen to be with SAP. I hope you'll all join us next week. This question comes from the perspective of Hybris, which is an SAP company. And Hybris is in the electronic commerce space. And what we're building is systems where a company, almost on an automated fashion, can send orders to vendors across the world. Now, on the vendor side, when I receive those orders, the question is the buyer going to be able to pay?
Yep.
Right.
And this stuff is happening. I mean, millions of dollars can be issued to 3 different buyers around the world. Is D&B up to the challenge of providing the credit worthiness real time for those vendors to verify that in fact they aren't part of a scam?
Right,
And if
right,
not, we'd love
right.
to talk to you.
Right, got it. I think there could be a deal done. There could be a deal
my
done
God,
tonight. I'm thinking.
This is exactly what we're all about.
that is.
And we actually have a pretty extensive relationship with SAP already, and we should talk about that. I mean, that gets to the heart of what we can do, and absolutely.
That's exactly what you do.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah, yeah. It feels
So,
very much like.
it's all about, again, making our information available in your technical environment, right? And doing that in a real-time fashion, and and that is absolutely at the heart of what we can do.
Right. What's interesting to me about this, there's 2 kinds of big data going on, and I think the big data world that I've been moving in is the one which says there's a gazillion log files, and if you apply amazing data analytics, you can find some statistical trend, that was hidden in all the digital exhaust. And it's sort of like, that's sort of one end of big data. The other end of big data is, I think, the one that Bob's describing, which is, it's like iron filings attaching to this magnetic core, and you keep making more and more sense of the world by essentially building that structure larger and larger. I think both of them are real. I think both of them have big futures. I just think they're very, very different from each other, and in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, big data is very overused and almost old school at this point. We say big insights, not big data, right? That's really what it's about. And look, a lot of companies have a story around analytics and insights, but what they don't have is the foundational database. They don't have.
Yeah, the core that you're building.
Yeah, we have 230 million records, that single, complete, actionable source of the truth. And when you marry that with our scores and things we're doing, that's a powerful 1-2 punch. It's not just the analytics, but it's all that foundational stuff, which is core.
Maybe one last question, right here. Okay, last question.
See, I work for Google in the platform area, and I know you own your data. Do you own all your hardware that you use it on, and do you foresee the day of going, when you would outsource that data center activity?
Interesting.
Do you have the trust
In other words, you run your own.
So
Google
we
to
actually do
manage
outsource.
that.
We do have a few outsourced data centers today. So we're very, very open to that.
Going forward, you are not in the hardware business.
No, look, the idea is that our technology is going to be used to get our data in our customers' technical environments. That's the primary focus. And we are going to leverage technology to support the strategy. We're going to use commercially available technology solutions. We're going to get away from proprietary, homegrown, roll our own kind of stuff. And so absolutely we're going to be, part of our outside in focus is pushing, technology to the outer edge to make sure that, first of all, we're future proofing it. Second of all, we're not getting distracted with building our own stuff and making sure that we're spending it against where we can drive value for our customers.
Great. So Bob, first of all, I know you're a public company CEO. This is I think you've been amazingly transparent. So I thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you.
Really good. Thanks a lot. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you. Go ahead.
I agree. We've done a fair number of what we call these paired luminary discussions, and we really appreciate you sharing your insights and perspectives so candidly. Thank you again. And Geoffrey, for so masterfully leading this conversation. One more round of applause, please. As a humble token of our gratitude, we have for you the Churchill Club speaker T-shirt.
Whoa!
All right.
A coveted eBay event.
Please wear it in good health.
We will.
Recording of
Thank
this
you.
program will be available soon, hopefully tomorrow on our YouTube channel. Thank you again to Dun Bradstreet, and you have been a terrific audience. Thank you so much.
everybody.
See you next time. Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.